Hello there, welcome back. This is Sheepishly here once again, and today I have a very special video in which I will be farming 100 maps, or should I say 100 towers, of the new hype that is the Bluff Towers Delirium Splinters farming strategy. Gosh, that's a mouthful. Despite its weird sounding name, the strategy is actually surprisingly straightforward to set up. It's probably the easiest strategy to run in POE 2 at the moment. It doesn't require any kind of tablet setups or any kind of Atlas strategies. All you've got to do is find one Bluff Towers, and there's a lot of these around your Atlas, trust me. You're gonna navigate yourself to any of these. And for this strategy, all you gotta do is to put a waystone with any sort of Delirious on it, and off you go. And when you run through the Bluff Tower map, which is surprisingly easy, it's a very linear layout, similar to Gorge in POE 1, if you remember when Gorge was a map, or Strand if you're a newer POE 1 player and wasn't around when Gorge was all the hype. And after you've run through the Bluff map, which is super linear and super straightforward, and reach the end of the Bluff Tower, what you want to be doing is to not click, very important, do not click the precursor beacon, because if you don't click it, what you can do is that you can actually exit the map, and since you haven't clicked the beacon, the game thinks that you haven't completed the Bluff map. Simply navigate to the same Bluff Tower you're doing, which is right here. You can see the game thinks that it's going incomplete. Put in your next map and traverse to the same tower again. And you can do this on repeat ad infinitum. And these maps are super quick. If you have a relatively fast build, you can run through these maps in like a minute, 2 minutes straight. This is a super straightforward and simple strategy. But the question is, how many simulacrum splinters can we get from running these maps? This is where the test comes in. I have prepared a set of 100 maps divided into two separate tests. The first one is what I call a low investment strategy, which is using these natural tier 15 drops with no deli on them. And all we're going to be doing is putting 3 distilled gilts on it to get 27% Delirious on the map. The reason why this is a low investment strategy is that you can use any of these tier 15 maps you have lying around, and distilled gilts are very, very cheap to get as well, and all of these maps you will have around 27% deliriousness, which is a solid amount. And for the second set of 50 maps, what I'll be running are these tier 11 to tier 15 natural delirious maps. And the reason I call these natural delirious maps is because these maps are actually dropped with the level of deliriousness on it. For instance, this tier 11 map already has 70% deliriousness, in which case we can add more delirious to it by using distilled gilts. I think for this one you can use between 1 to 2 of them before the game stops you. For this map, only 1 of them. And look at that. We have a 79% deliriousness map. There's also ones that can drop with even more deliriousness. For instance, this one has 115, but you actually cannot use any more distilled emotions on it. So, well, 115 is also pretty good. I don't think anyone's going to complain that. And the reason we want to run maps with higher delirious percentages is very simple. The best way to scale the amount of splinters that actually drop in these maps is by scaling the deliriousness percentage. For example, this 27% delirious maps, I would expect to drop something like 20 or 30 splinters, and this 79% delirious maps, I could drop upwards of 60 or 80 of them. But that's just my estimate based on what other content creators have been saying. How much we're gonna drop exactly? Well, let's find out using these 100 map tests. Before we go through the actual test results, let's quickly go through the Atlas setup. I've gone with only 4 Atlas points on my Delirium tree, picking up only what's necessary. The first 2 points for get out of my head, and the second 2 points, which is the key one, would you like to see my face, dropping double the amount of splinters in your Delirious maps. Now, if you have all 8 of your Delirious passive tree unlocked, I would be taking They're Coming to Get You, as well as the mirrors, which will also give a sizable boost to your splinter drops. I've taken only the minimum 4 points required for this strategy to work instead of the full 8 points to create a minimum baseline for you guys, because getting all 8 points, it's surprisingly difficult given how hard and challenging the simulacrum encounter is. As to the rest of the passive tree, I've simply used what Crouching Tuner has been using, since he's the one that came up with the strategy and has been testing it and optimizing it on his stream as well, so all the credits to Tuner for figuring this one out for the rest of us PoE 2 plebs. Lastly, I just want to mention that we do want to Vaal all of these maps. Even though I say the delirious percentage is the most important thing, we still want some mods on these just to increase the number of monsters or increase the number of rarity and quantity to increase the natural drops. So once you use alchemy orbs or regal orbs to make your maps rare, I would just apply a Vaal orb on that, and hopefully it turns into something nice, which none of these maps did, but that is okay. Well, that's enough yapping. Without further ado, let's speed forward and see what our test results look like.
A few moments later.
Okay, we're done with the first 50 maps, and here is the outcome. We have on the left hand side 3 completed simulacrums, as well as 263 splinters, so almost 4 simulacrums across the 50 runs. I only tracked the exalt drops. We got about 32 exalts, and I think that's running something like 70% rarity. Now, the maps are not very big, there's not that too many mobs, so I think 32 exalts is quite good. No divines, which is probably as expected, and of course, 1 greater jeweler's orb because we did take the notable local knowledge. I was hoping we were going to drop a perfect jeweler's orb because, well, Bluff is a grass biome and you can drop soccer currency, but hey, maybe in the next 50 runs. Another notable drop from the 50 Bluff Towers, which is Strand, are these 25 Deli maps. And for the next part of our test, we're going to be running 50 of these to compare how much simulacrum splinters come out of this premium Delirious map versus the ones we were just running before, which I think is more entry level. Lastly, we also dropped a unique Sapphire ring, which I was very excited about, but unfortunately it is only a Whisper of the Brotherhood, which is not worth too much money. Well, there you go. Now let's get to the second part of the test and run 50 more Bluff Towers. I will see you in a moment. Okay, there we go. We finished the next set of 50 maps. I did them in one sitting. Like I said, the maps are fairly quick to run, at least with my build, and here is the results. Immediately, you can see that we've gotten way more simulacrums than last time. We've gotten 5.5 simulacrums compared to 3.5 last time, so that's a sizable boost running these natural daily maps. We actually didn't drop as many exalts, only 37 exalts. Now, this could just be us getting unlucky, but also I think because we're running tier 11 to tier 15 maps rather than running purely tier 15 maps, the level of drop has decreased as a result. To compensate though, we dropped 1 Divine Orb, which is fairly lucky, I would say. I definitely did expect to drop at least 1 Divine Orb in these 100 map tests, so hey, there you go. And we also have 2 Greater Jeweler's Orbs. Coming over to our spreadsheet, which I will, of course, link in the video description below. This is what we got in these 100 map tests. For the first setup, which is using tier 50 maps with no Deli on them and applying 3 distilled guild, we averaged 23 splinters per map, and across 50 maps, we scored 543 exalts or 2.3 divines at the current prices for divines and simulacrums, which does shift a bit over time, and this doesn't count any of the natural currency drops we have or any of the profits we made selling rare items that we picked up off the ground. For the second setup of 50 maps, this time using tier 11 to tier 15 natural daily maps and then topping them up with distilled guilds where necessary, we dropped on average a whopping 34 splinters per map. That's almost a 50% increase to what we had before, for a total revenue of 784 exalts or 3.3 divines. What does this tell us? Well, the profits are quite good, especially if you can run through these maps quite quickly. It is also a very chill strategy to run, so I would 100% recommend it if you do enjoy this kind of more POE 1-esque style farming. The efficiency of the farm, which is kind of how much you make versus your time investment, is probably not as good as some content creators make them out to be, and that's mostly because simulacrum prices has been dropping, probably due to how popular this strategy now is, as well as the rising divine prices in relation to exalts. Looking at the results though, I have 3 key takeaways I hope to impart with you. Firstly, the strategy is definitely very good, and at least to me, it's a very fun strategy. It's a solid 7.5 out of 10, and I definitely will be doing more of these in the future. Takeaway number 2 is that I will only be running setup number 2 going forwards, which is the natural daily map drops. The amount of extra splinters you get from running natural daily maps versus no daily maps is simply too significant for me to ignore, and I think it's actually not efficient to run setup 1, which is no daily maps, in the current softcore economy. The third and final takeaway is that if your build is capable of doing it, I would definitely recommend picking up these 4 additional nodes. In fact, I'm going to do that right after this video is being filmed, just to squeeze that little bit of extra profit out of this strategy. Well, there you go. That's the Bluff Towers Deliriousness farming strategy. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video today so I can keep on making more contents like this, and good luck on your POE 2 adventures. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.